So what happened to the dirty Israeli president who made up an outrageous lie? She says, oh my God, thank God I didn't die from the bomb you put on my head. And he goes, oh yeah, she said Hamas beat her so badly. You're still going to trust the Israeli president? I guarantee you, every single mainstream media outlet in America, the next time the Israeli president or prime minister put out a statement, they will carry it 100% as if it's true. And they won't tell you about their history of lies throughout the entire conflict.
Freed Israeli hostage Noa Argamani is setting the record straight after Israeli media, along with some government officials in Israel, spread lies about what she experienced while she was being held captive by Hamas in Gaza. Now, she was one of the hostages that really became the face of the victims of October 7th. There's video of her that went viral showing Hamas militants basically taking her while she was at a music festival and driving her over to Gaza. She was later freed during a rescue operation that was great for a few of the hostages, but awful for Palestinians. That rescue operation killed 236 Palestinians, most of them women and children. But what Noa Argamani is disgusted by is how the media totally twisted how she got injured while she was held captive by Hamas. So outlets, including the Jerusalem Post, ran the headline, "Hamas beat me all over." And Noa Argamani said on Instagram that that just wasn't true. I'm going to give you her exact quotes. "I can't ignore what happened in the media in the last 24 hours. Things were taken out of context. I was not beaten. I was in a building that was bombed by the Air Force," meaning the IDF. "I emphasize that I was not beaten, but injured all over my body by the collapse of a building on me. As a victim of October 7th, I refuse to be victimized once again by the media." Now, prior to that statement on social media, she also testified before the Group of Seven, the G7, in Tokyo and said the following: "It's a miracle because I survived October 7th and I survived this bombing, and I also survived the rescue." And so where did this lie originally come from? The media didn't just fabricate it out of thin air. It turns out that there were some Israeli officials who were repeating this lie over and over again, including prominent Israelis like President Isaac Herzog, that's again the president of Israel, and pro-Israel voices around the world, including writer Aviva Klompas, and the Australia, Israel, and Jewish Affairs Council, which amplified the false claim that Argamani was beaten by her captors. Now, look, what Hamas did was bad enough, right? They took her, they kidnapped her along with hundreds of other people and held them captive in Gaza. So that is bad enough. That is already a crime. But making up how she was injured, I think, seeks to cover up how the IDF's military operations in Gaza showed very little regard for the hostages' lives.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it.
Yeah, so in other stories on this topic, you'll sometimes hear me say, I don't believe a word the IDF says. It's because of stories like this, constantly, over and over again. The Israeli government puts out a statement, and then later, 2 weeks later, 2 months later, they go, oh yeah, it's total lie, utter lie, fabricated, completely fabricated. Oh my God, UNRWA's working with Hamas, totally fabricated. The UN says there's no evidence of it. The US says there's no evidence of it. By the way, everybody cut their funding anyway, because it doesn't matter how much Israel lies. It's absurd, and the media will report it no matter what, no matter how absurd it is, no matter how much their track record is of nonstop lies. So who has been consistent and correct here? We have. So we were consistent after October 7th, said terrible loss of civilian lives, awful, Hamas shouldn't have done it. The taking of the hostages is awful, they should be returned as soon as possible. We want now then the 40,000 dead, Israel should stop, obviously. We want the hostages returned. And one of the things we said in the meanwhile was, I don't think they really want the hostages back, and that's because they're bombing the buildings.
Right.
And the hostages are probably in the buildings. You heard us say that with your own ears, and it turns out that's exactly what was happening, and we were right all along. The Hamas was in the tunnels. They couldn't get to the tunnels. They were bombing buildings, and they didn't give a damn if the hostages were in there because they wanted death and destruction and revenge and to absolutely eviscerate Gaza and then go back to occupying it, which is exactly what their demand is today.
And you guys are probably gonna think this sounds outrageous, but it's not, and I'm gonna show you what I mean in just a minute. But That was actually the order by the military, right? To take out Hamas, even if Israeli hostages are going to die as a result of their military operations. And I'm going to give you the details on that in just a moment. But I do want to just quickly note, after Argamani came out and called out the media for lying about how she was injured while held captive in Gaza, publications like the Jerusalem Post did stealth edits without doing a real retraction where you admit, hey, we got this wrong, we're now going to correct the record. They just changed the headline, right? So the original headline for the Jerusalem Post was, Hamas beat me all over my body, Noa Argamani says, in first testimony on her captivity. That was the original one, which was a lie. They later did a stealth edit of that headline and changed it to, it's a miracle I'm alive, Noa Argamani says in first testimony on her captivity.
Here's another thing I'd like to know. All the people who printed that lie, she never said that. So where'd you get the quote from? She never even came close to saying that. Where'd you get the quote from?
From the president.
Okay, so can we now agree that the Israeli president is an obvious, preposterous liar, and you should never trust anything he says?
I was already there.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking to the American media, because American media is like, anything Israel says is, we bow down to you, you're of course correct, you're correct. Oh, dirty Palestinians, never trust them, right? So what happened to the dirty Israeli president who made up an outrageous lie? She says, oh my God, thank God I didn't die from the bomb you put on my head. And he goes, oh yeah, she said Hamas beat her so badly. You're still going to trust the Israeli president? I guarantee you, every single mainstream media outlet in America, the next time the Israeli president or prime minister put out a statement, they will carry it 100% as if it's true. And they won't tell you about their history of lies throughout the entire conflict.
So I wanted to just quickly talk a little bit about what I was referencing earlier, and it's a protocol within the IDF known as the Hannibal directive. And this is important to know about, not only with how they're carrying out military operations in Gaza right now, but how they responded to the Hamas attacks on October 7th. So basically, the Israeli Defense Forces used this protocol known as the Hannibal Directive, which authorizes lethal force against Israeli soldiers and Israelis, in this case Israeli hostages, in order to prevent them from being taken prisoner by enemy forces. The use of this directive was confirmed by freed hostages who have recounted being fired upon by Israeli aircraft as they were being taken by Hamas militants into Gaza. So we don't know the exact number, we don't know the percentage of Israeli civilians who were killed on October 7th as a result of IDF soldiers shooting at them. But there was a really great investigative piece in Haaretz about this, which I highly recommend everyone look into. This is something that the hostages have been speaking out against. This is something that Israelis have been speaking out against. One former captive, for instance, said in December that every day in captivity was extremely challenging. We were in tunnels terrified that it would not be Hamas, but Israel that would kill us. And then they would say, Hamas killed you. So they were more concerned about the aerial bombardments carried out by the IDF and how those very bombings would likely kill them before Hamas would. So it's important to know those details. It's not to cover up or in any way whitewash what Hamas did on October 7th, but these military directives, this protocol, shows a complete disregard for Israeli lives, along with Palestinian lives, of course.
Yeah, so, but we already saw at least some version of that when Israel killed its own hostages. You remember, they had the white flag, they were just walking, their hands up, no weapons at all. They were Israeli hostages that had escaped, and they slaughtered them. I don't know if they did it because it was a Hannibal directive, and they're like, I don't know, it doesn't matter, just kill everyone and blame it all on Palestinians, and we'll call them savages, and that'll allow us to murder more of them, because you see how they're the savages. More likely, that particular one was because they were in a kill zone. Oh, right, Israel has kill zones. Areas that they declare to be, no one goes in, otherwise we murder you, all right? You're Israeli, you're Palestinian, you're a child, you're a dog, I don't care. You're in the kill zone, we murder you. So that's what Israel does. If that breaks your heart, take it up with Netanyahu, take it up with the Israeli voters. More details that are important. When I said occupy, they want to go back to occupying Gaza. Obviously, they have an effective occupation of Gaza anyway. They can cut off their water power and bomb the hell out of them anytime they want. But on top of that, they're asking for a corridor in the south and in the middle of Gaza. as a military occupation of Gaza, and they're saying, well, what? Oh, we just added that provision where we reoccupy you through the military. Oh, I guess you object to that, even though we already had a deal earlier. So it's more bad faith by Netanyahu and this monstrous government of Israel that wants to continue this for war as long as they possibly can, which leads me to the last points. So, look, and Anna's right, of course, and we're right that we've been telling you, are there blame on both sides? Of course, right? And now there's reports, oh, well, you know, the UN is saying maybe there were some people from UNRWA that might have been involved, et cetera. And it gets so messy because you don't know if U.S. is putting political pressure on them. Make sure you tell what the Israelis want, et cetera. Because they do that. If you don't know that they do that, you're sad, you don't know the news. Okay, so finally, now human rights workers say that the Palestinians in Gaza are down to about 11% of Gaza that is considered quote unquote safe area. And remember, Israel bombs safe areas anyway, right? But they're down to 11% where there's almost no infrastructure.
Millions of people. We're talking millions of people.
There's 2.3 million people in Gaza. They have to be squeezed into that 11% with no infrastructure. Polio is starting to spread. We're back to mass starvation. There should be 500 trucks going in to bring in food. There's only 100 trucks because both the settlers and the Israeli government keep blocking the trucks going in with humanitarian aid. Now the Palestinian kids look like the Jewish kids during the 1930s Germany, where they're skin and bones, or they're horribly mutilated by Israeli bombs. And then Israel, constantly rubbing salt in those wounds, has destroyed every university in Gaza, even after they were empty. Those are controlled explosions. They're just saying, you're not allowed to get educated because you guys are savages. You're goddamn animals. How dare you try to learn like human beings?
Yeah,
and in Khan Yunis, they just destroyed one of the oldest mosques in the world. Also completely empty, controlled explosion. Why? They want to say, we don't value your religion. We don't value your lives. You're nothing but animals to us. But by the way, we're the moral ones. We're the moral ones. And these dirty Muslim savages should be killed at every turn. But remember, America, send a goddamn check.
In fact, look, the universities, that's bad enough. But obviously, hospitals are critical, especially at a time when the region is being bombarded with IDF bombings. And the last operating hospital in Gaza has been ordered to evacuate as they carry out, military operations in that area, probably to destroy that one last remaining operating hospital in Gaza. So what's happening in Gaza should not be forgotten. I get that this war has been going on for 11 months now, and it's a hot story until everyone gets distracted by something else. But make no mistake about it, the United States, with its resources, is aiding and abetting unquestionable atrocities in the Gaza Strip. And the majority of those victims are women and children. It is reflected in the death toll. And if you're going to argue that this is just Israel going after Hamas, well, I mean, the evidence doesn't really bear that out when you consider the demographics of individuals who are getting killed in Gaza as we speak.
Yeah, you should all boycott Israel. No decent, sane, moral person should go to Israel or spend any money on Israeli products. I mean, when the Taliban destroyed historic monuments in Afghanistan, the whole world was outraged. How dare they? And I agreed with them. How dare they? I can't believe those fundamentalist, horrible people did that. So Israel's doing that right now in Gaza. Where's the outrage? How about they're against all civilization? They're against all morality. They're against all history. No, if it's Israel, you're not allowed to say it. So I'm saying it. They're just like the Taliban. And yes, they're led by religious zealots who are lunatics who think that an invisible person in the sky whispered in their ear to murder Muslims and to take their land. Lunatics. Okay, and Benjamin Netanyahu, one of the worst terrorists of my lifetime and clearly the biggest terrorist leader in the world today.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.